Hello, everyone, and welcome to another broadcast of Northwest Georgia Cryptics. We're live tonight with Zeus of Western Bigfoot Slope,
Western.
and of course, my as always, Mr. Blake Duckworth. We've been having some technical difficulties on this end. I don't know what in the world's wrong. Uh, Zeus, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, buddy.
Yeah, my name is Zeus Platt. I founded Western Slope Bigfoot research organization. I started it probably about a year, the organization about a year ago, and I've been doing research on Bigfoot for about 30 years now. And my encounters, my first encounter was 30 years ago when I was young. Seen a whole family of Bigfoot, me, my mom, and my dad, and ever since then, I've been really obsessed with Sasquatch. So I've uh, I've been on the pursuit to bring this subject to light and educate people.
Now, I got a question. I've actually seen a family myself. Um, can you describe the size of the juvenile compared to the, how did you distinguish the male from the female? Was it a family, as far as that goes, or I mean, go a little detail?
Uh, well, we were in a suburban. Keep in mind, we were in a suburban. The suburban had broken down on a trip to a camping spot. The next day, some of our friends were coming up. So that night, I had been woken up by a fairly loud bang against the suburban. And when I woke up, what I can remember, he had to have been 8 to 9 feet tall. And what I assumed was mom, because she was probably about 2 feet shorter. She might have been about 6 foot, 6.5, maybe 7. And the juvenile was, I got to say, he was 4.5 foot tall, really short, and just barely peeking up and over the window. And they were all looking in at us. And I just remember kind of yelling at them. And my dad and my mom woke up, and my dad grabbed for his gun because, well, they know about him, but this all took us for surprise. And then they took off running. So I mean, their sizes. I assume dad, the big one, and then I assume mom, and the really short one was obviously juvenile. I would assume.
Yeah, that as far as the adolescent, that's about the size of the one I saw, about 4 foot.
Yeah, yeah, very small head, probably smaller than mine.
Mm. About the size of a 6-year-old, 7-year-old, 8-year-old,
Sure.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. He wasn't really that big,
Um,
build wise.
Now, as far as coloring, could you tell far as the color of hair?
Well, being there was about a half moon that night, they appeared to look like they had black hair. Could have been a dark brown, but like I said, it was at night, and you could see the moonlight shining on their hair, and it appeared to look black, maybe a dark brown. Really couldn't tell definitively.
Yeah. So, did you actually see their faces or no?
All I remember was faint glowing red eyes on the two larger ones. The little guy, it was just black face.
Yeah.
And what was weird about it, though, the glowing eyes, there was very small as far as comparison to where their eyes would be big. They were small or like dots. Maybe the black pupil in there was just glowing red. I don't know. I mean, I later found out that's how they can actually see at night. They have the ability to do that.
Zeus, I have a question. Out there in your area, I know you said you got reports of different sightings around out there and all. Uh, how are they compared to what they are out here? Are they more aggressive out there, or less aggressive than what we have here in Georgia? Uh, I know Blake and
Oh,
I both.
they're less aggressive. Uh, of what my understanding is of my research, more aggressive Sasquatch seem to be, the reports and whatnot seem to be in the eastern area of the United States. There are some aggressive, and even people have actually got killed. Not very often. They're, for the most part, they're extremely peaceful, and when they see you, they either run from you or they observe you, and you either get scared or you stand there and try to interact. But from what I can tell, my reports that I've gotten, those eastern Sasquatch are a bit meaner than the ones over here on the western side, up in the Rocky Mountain area.
Now, where exactly are you located?
I'm. Is it okay to say my town?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Right now, I did a lot of research down in Pagosa Springs, Colorado. Fabulous area for Sasquatch and other cryptids I've ran into down there. So I moved up here to Estes Park, Colorado. It's a heavy tourist town, and there's a lot of sightings because a lot of the tourists they go out, they take a lot of trails out in these woods in the national park, and they have a lot of encounters themselves. And it seems to be the Sasquatch don't care how many people are there. It could be thousands of people, hundreds, I should say hundreds of people on a trail. You walk off trail, not even 100 yards, and there's footprints. There's the last Sasquatch I had caught on film 2 months ago, just before it got cold, 2 or 3 months ago. That was 80 yards off the main road from the Rocky Mountain National Park road, and I had walked back in there. I just said I get really good feelings, and my feelings are usually pretty correct. And that was the second time I filmed Sasquatch in that area. The first time there was 4 in the one video, one very tall one. So it doesn't seem like they care how many people are walking on the trails. They stay put as long as they're not seen or acknowledged. They observe. They just observe people.
I give people to give our viewers an idea of the climate and all out there. When did y'all the winters actually start in there in that part of the country?
I want to say about September, October, November, October. It starts really getting cold. You start seeing your first snowfalls. It's around 8,000 foot elevation where I'm at, and the winds are terrible up here. I mean, you get winds that reach 40 to 80 mile an hour winds. So the winters will start. It starts getting chilly in September, pretty cold, but then it starts really hitting rough in October, and then from October on into April, it starts to feel pretty good around here.
What y'all normal winter temperatures out there?
Oh, normal winter temperature on a sunny day, it'll hit about 20, 25 degrees. And it'll also dip down to 10 below zero, give or take, depending.
Now, up there, do you guys have a lot of areas that have like concentrated sightings and activity?
That's what I've also researched. It doesn't seem like there's one area, maybe one mountain, one spot of concentrated, more than another spot. They're very spread out. It just seems like this entire area, all the way up into Wyoming, all the way going west, and all the way down past Bailey. Bailey is also a hot spot. Estes Park is also a hot spot. So there's not just one general area. I mean, wherever they're just spotted all over the place.
Now, do you think that has a lot to do with migration, maybe?
What that has a lot to do with, I think, is game. Huge amount of
game. Yeah.
Game everywhere. There's the elk that hang out in this town, hang out in herds of 100. Deer everywhere around town. Occasional moose. Moose are more just on the other side of the mountains west of me. Uh, the game in this area is out of control, and
Abundance.
where there's game, you find Bigfoot.
They'll follow you.
Oh, right, right. Now I know I used to hunt out there myself back in the 80s and 90s. I've hunted it, hung up on a mountain above Steamboat, Colorado. Uh, Hunted that area in there for quite a few years, and I found it to be a very beautiful place out there. We hunted the BLM land there, and which is, there's several hundred acres out there of that. Uh, I have run across what I had thought at the time as being Sasquatch prints, but you know, most of the guys that you went back down on hunting parties, they played them off to be bear tracks or whatever. Now, could you tell us viewers what type of grizzly bear population y'all have in that area?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
The grizzly population out there. What type of grizzly population do you have in that area?
Uh, as far as I know, I haven't seen grizzly. There aren't supposed to be grizzly in the area. All the grizzly are more north, going to Wyoming. Although there have been some sightings of grizzly just outside of town at Storm Mountain, and I've had some people tell me be careful being out there. There's been grizzly spotted out there. I haven't seen one yet. I see a lot of black bear, cougar, all the other wildlife, but nothing as far as grizzly that I've seen yet. They may be here. There's been reports.
Right. Now, have you found any? Now you're talking about the elk, deer population, and all that there. During your research, have you actually found any that you would have contributed to being Sasquatch kills?
I found an elk and I found a deer that their legs shouldn't have been broken in the manner that they were broken in. And they were both, one was a deer, one was a cow, and each one of them had all four of their legs snapped clean. And it wasn't in an area where they just fell off of a cliff or anything. This was just in thick, dark, wooded area, and there's a carcass laying there. And well, by the time I find it, it's been eaten by probably Bigfoot and coyote and other creatures out there. It's too bad I couldn't run into it sooner into the process after it dying to actually see more evidence of what's going on. And I found a bear. It was a big bear. I don't know, 400 or 500 pounds, big cinnamon bear. This is funny. His head was snapped, pointing back the opposite direction, like facing his back. All the years I've been in the woods and guided elk hunters and researched Sasquatch, I have never found a bear. That's kind of an impossible feat. There's no elk that's going to do that. There's nothing out there that's going to do that unless you got a pair of hands and you got an enormous amount of strength. To take a bear's head of that size and snap that sucker facing the other way. That blew my mind. In 30 years, that's the first time I've ever seen that. That was very intriguing to me. But the elk and deer, all four of their legs were just cleanly snapped. Pretty amazing.
And that I would like to input is a trait of Sasquatch. They actually snap the deer or whatever, snap their legs to where they cannot run. That is a trait of Sasquatch. Also, you were talking about the bear. That would be contributed to another trait of a Sasquatch, as far as what I've encountered over the years myself, and what I've found out in research is that they do snap the neck of their victims, especially when it's something the size of a bear. And this, folks, goes to show you that the awesome strength that these animals actually possess. People, they go out in the woods every day and they think, oh, they're dealing with these things. They have an encounter with them. They think, oh, they're just some mundane animal that is teddy bear-like. Well, these things, out here in the North Georgia mountains, I can tell you, from encounters that Blake and I have had. These things they're very curious animals. They will come. They will seek you out. They will stand back and watch you, and you won't even know they're in the area.
Yep, exactly.
But if
Exactly.
but the whole key to it is we really, as researchers, even do not really know what actually pushes the button of these animals and actually triggers a reaction out of them, especially a hostile reaction. That's something we don't know.
Hey
Well,
Ricky,
they
Yeah.
do.
I'm going ahead and cut out. If you don't mind, my phone's getting low and I'm not near a charger right now. I'm sorry guys, I'm gonna cut out early tonight.
Okay,
If you guys
buddy. I'll catch you later.
okay, and as always, guys, if you don't mind, hit the subscribe button, bell notification, like and comment. And I do apologize about cutting out early tonight, but I will see you guys next time. And I'll talk to you in a little bit,
All right,
Ricky. And
buddy.
it was good meeting you, buddy.
Hey, Blake, it was an honor meeting you, man.
I'll talk to you later.
All right, see you, buddy.
Bye.
I'll go ahead and take you out. All right, bud. Yeah, as I was saying, I found out in this area out here, those are some of the traits that Sasquatch do exhibit. And like I say, these things really, as researchers, and Zeus can tell you, we really don't know what actually triggers a hostile reaction out of these animals. Or out here, we don't. What about you, Zeus? Have you found out any
Uh,
different?
what triggers as far as maybe getting a little aggressive towards you?
Right.
Being what triggers, and I found out the hard way, not any violent way towards me. It was more or less bluff charging. What really would trigger a Sasquatch is if you find their area, if you find a large amount of structures, just crazy structures, logs that just can't be moved without at least 6 to 10 men, 2,000-pound logs, whatever. And there's many times I've found a big area of structures and I've gotten aggressive reactions for just being in there. And my interpretation of it is it's like me walking into somebody's home and I open the door and walk in. What are they going to do? They're going to freak out and they're going to threaten me to leave. You know what I mean? And I've had Squatch come flying through the bushes, wailing their arms and making guttural, at me.
Yeah.
And they'll always stop about 20 feet away. And you got to talk to them. I talked to them. I said, okay, I'm leaving. At the same time, I got to get home and check my britches. Curious. I've had bear charge me. I've had grizzly charge me. They scared the shit out of me, but nothing like a Sasquatch coming at you because the display of strength and aggressiveness that they're showing, they don't want to hurt you. I know that. They don't want to come at you and rip you apart. They simply just don't want you in their area. They don't quite trust you. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Something else I want to ask you now. In our area out here over the last 40, 50 years, we've actually had missing children that have come up missing from national forest in this area. And, in most cases, their bodies were never found. 2 or 3 different cases I know of, one particular one, Dennis Martin case, 1969, Smoky Mountains. Little boy, 6 years old, was abducted from a area where he and his grandfather, his dad, the whole family were out for a weekend outing. I believe it was like on Easter. But the little boy was abducted about 3 miles from where he was abducted. A family by the name of Keys was out also enjoying the weekend, and they reported to seeing what they thought was a hairy man or vagrant or whatever with a bag of looked like green clothes. They said thrown over his shoulder. Well, the Forestry Service, along with the Marine Corps, came in. And what was found strange about this case was they worked the case for 10 days, the Marine Corps did, and they worked it for 10 days. They never coordinated their search efforts with the National Park Service. Now, this went on for 10 days. The only time that they went out, that they actually had men in the woods, was at night. After the 10th day, they said they brought a big flatbed truck in, loaded items on this flatbed truck, tarped it off. It left out. They left out. They pulled out. Now, whatever coordinating with any other official agency that was there in the park at that time. About 2 weeks later, they said they found this young man's clothes, which was identified by his family, where they had been removed, the clothes folded over the limb there in the forest, and the young boy's body was never found. And that's my question to you is, do y'all have any abductions like that goes on in your area?
Yes, we have abductions up here. People that's gone missing. I kind of don't understand why the abductions occurred and where did they go. So I mean, there may be. I'm not saying that there is, but there may be rogue Sasquatches. I know Sasquatch love children. Don't know what it is about them. And females. They find females. I put two and two together. Maybe the pheromones that the females, that they produce and put off, it really attracts them because Sasquatch also has a very good sense of smell. They can smell you. And Sasquatch is extremely, extremely attracted to females. And all the females that I've taken on investigations, well, my chance of finding and observing a Sasquatch just went up 30%. You know what I mean? And I've taken children out with me. I like my niece when she was younger. I would take her out with me, and well, again, your chances of finding a Sasquatch and filming one, and one coming right up into you, just increased 30% or so. So I don't know what it is about children. I've always wondered that. I've always been trying to figure out why are they so interested in children. I think they're interested in females because of their pheromones. But there has been missing people around here. Sometimes they find their body. Sometimes they never find them. It's not that often that happens. That's in my knowledge, anyway, that somebody will actually go missing. We had a recent guy go missing, and he had actually in the park. I didn't know him personally. I'm just on the report of how he was. He was a mountaineer guy. He loved to rappel. He loved to get out in the woods. He loved to do that kind of thing. And he was experienced in it. Well, he went up, and I can't recall the name of the peak that they found him, but he ended up going out, disappeared, never came back. They had people searching for him. I find it very strange they found him with dead from blunt force trauma. I find that very intriguing. Like, why blunt force trauma? If anything, I mean, like, basically they were saying there was so much blunt force trauma on him. It was like he was being beat up until he died. That was a strange situation, and that I want to say that happened 4 months ago, maybe. I could be wrong, but it was somewhere around there. It was just before it started getting cold. It was before September, and I found that very interesting that this experienced man in the woods, experienced many things, never came back, and they found him like he had been beaten to death, like somebody took a baseball bat.
Okay, now I know I have discovered in my research here that the Sasquatch, they say, will actually grab say a deer, a human, whatever. They'll actually grab them by the legs and beat them against trees.
I've heard of
Uh,
that. Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I have heard of this happening in quite a few cases here in Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, uh, these areas. And this is actually a trait that they exhibit. So as far as the guy that you were talking about, could that have been what actually caused his injuries?
Um, like I said, I thought it was very strange that he had force trauma in a way that he was beaten, not just a single blunt force trauma, maybe falling off of a rock or something very high. This guy was beaten to a pulp, and I thought that I found that very intriguing. And it's unfortunate that he passed away. He had a family, and that happened to him. But the manner that he had gotten killed in was very mysterious. Of course, the people that found him dead, to them that just, oh, he just fell off the rock. And I'm sorry, I've heard of people falling off of rocks before, and there's usually one side of their body that's got like a good blunt force trauma from the impact, not multiple spots all over his body like somebody tagged him up with a baseball bat. You know what I mean? And probably
Right,
broke
right.
his bone. And that I found, as an experienced Sasquatch researcher, to be very strange. My mind wandered another way, and it's very possible he could have ran into a rogue Sasquatch. It happens, you know. It's You got your good ones and you got your bad ones, but it's so unfortunate, very strange.
Well, those in your research and your time in the woods, spent in the woods searching these animals out, what has been your most frightening encounter that you've had?
Well, the most frightening encounter I had is what we were talking earlier about when you're in their area, and this has happened to me many times. The one time that he came really close to me was in Pagosa Springs, Colorado, and we were in a huge area of structures and just great big structures made out of huge logs. And this Sasquatch he was very aggressive. I don't think his intent was to hurt me. I think his intent was to get me out of there. But he was big. I He had to be 9, 10 foot tall. He was a big, big, big boy. Very hulking, very hulking. His shoulders were, God, 3, 4 foot wide. You know, his arms. And I say a he because I've seen female Sasquatches and they have breasts that hang very low down, clear by their waists. But anyway, he had come flying through and he was making, really aggressive whooping sounds and uh, uh, growls, I guess you could say. He was smacking trees, just trees that were, I want to say 15-inch diameter trees, smashing them with his forearms and just smacking oak brush on the way and just ripping some of those out of the ground, and just incredible display of strength. And I stood there and I was paralyzed with fear. Of course, I said, well, if he's going to get me, he's going to get me. I can't run from him. And well, he stopped. Like I said, always 20 feet away, but that was a bad one. That was a really bad one, and that was only 8 months ago. And he displayed some strength.
Wow.
And I seen his face. Uh, he had a gray face, and his eyes were pitch black, and big black eyes. To me, he resembled almost an old man look to him. He had a lot of big wrinkles right here on his forehead, right between where his forehead meets his nose. A lot of wrinkles. He had gray skin, like a gray colored skin, and his fur was like a dark brown. Well, technically they don't have fur; they have hair, and so hair, which looked like you would see on somebody with long hair resembled that. And his hair was medium in length. It wasn't real long. Very very nice looking hair. And yeah, he stopped 20 feet away from me, and I remember seeing the palms of his hands were gray, his feet were gray. I remember seeing just the edge beyond the hair down towards the pad of his foot was gray. And but he came at me with some super display of strength that scared the living hell out of me. And again, I composed when he stopped. I composed myself to I have to do something. Only thing I could do is talk to him. And so I did. I talked to him, and I told him I'm leaving. I'm leaving. I threw my hands up. I said I'm leaving, and I walked away. And yeah, that was pretty scary. And I looked over my shoulder twice, and he stood right there in that spot watching me. And that was only 200 yards off the road, off of there was a road that's 20 miles long, dead ends, and I was at that dead end, and I'd walked. I was doing the research. I walked back in there and around 200 yards, and that's where that happened at. So yeah, I got the hell out of there. That was really scary. That was some scary stuff.
I know that Blake and I have encountered them here down at Altoona Lake over at Blue Ridge WMA. I've encountered them had encounters with them in Alabama, up in Tennessee, and each one is different.
Yeah.
Each encounter that you actually have with these things some can be similar to the other ones, but most of them, in my opinion, are different type of encounters. I've encountered them where they throw drops at us. I've encountered them where they screamed and you could hear tree breaks. You could actually see trees 20, 30 yards out from you where they were shaking these trees.
Yes.
And I'm talking, 80, 100-foot trees, and it looked like they're in a 80 to 90 mile an hour windstorm and no wind blowing at all, where these things are shaking them. And, it's just something that unless you're right there and unless you have had an encounter with one of these things, you really just cannot imagine the audacity and the strength that these things actually possess.
Yes, their strength is amazing. And I have seen the very same thing you're talking about out there, where there's either two or one big tree that seems impossible if you didn't have an excavator or something to shake that tree in that manner. And I've seen that before, and I, in my opinion, think it's a way of them saying they don't really want you there. It's kind of an aggressive display of saying, I'm strong, leave now.
Oh, you're exactly right. If you encounter one of these things in an area and they don't want you there, they're going to do whatever they have to, whatever is at their disposal to actually get you out of that area. But I have been in areas where I could actually, now I know that they were there. I could actually go in and smell them. I don't know if you've ever encountered the smell with one of these things, but man, down here at Altoona Lake, down in Bartow County, about 20 miles from here, we encountered one day that I walked in there about, well, the way the lake comes, it comes off the main body of the lake, and they were like a big slough that came in, and I had walked over on the other side of this slough and walked up maybe 15, 20 foot to the top of this bank, and just as I topped out on the bank, I caught this smell, man, that was ungodly. It was so rank that I thought I was going to lose my stomach.
Yeah.
And, never heard anything else. Never had any encounter whatsoever. No rocks, no nothing, no tree knocks, no nothing out of it. But I was in there for probably, I'd say 45 minutes to an hour, and this smell was just right there present with me the whole time I was there. I know this thing was watching me. I know he was close, but as far as ever seeing him, I couldn't see him. And I think that they actually emit this smell at times to chase people out, where people will actually leave.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. because I've encountered the same thing. I've been out there and I've smelt an array of different smells, and sometimes the smell is so putrid it gives you asthma. It like takes your breath away. It smells so bad. And 3 weeks ago, went up here to Twin Sisters, still snow on the ground. Kind of went looking around, found some possible footprints. They weren't the greatest. And again, I had somebody with me, and we'd walk back in there about 2.5 miles, and there was that smell. It wasn't real heavy, putrid, but it was a smell. It smelled like somebody hasn't showered in a while. It was a BO smell. It's like, why would that smell be out here in the middle of nowhere? It smells totally different than what you smell. You know how elk smell out there? The elk have a distinctive smell. So do bear. That this wasn't like anything like those. The bear is asleep anyway. And we walked into a spot where there was some pretty good structures, and out of nowhere, we get this whiff of a stinky BO smell. Never heard a rock clack, never heard a wood knock, never heard a vocal. Nothing happened. We just we could smell it. We walked south down the mountain. We were going to go ahead and head back. We got about 20 feet. The smell instantly went away. And I told the female I was with, I said, "You smelled that, right?" And she goes, "Yeah, that was interesting." She said it smelled like somebody hadn't showered in a while. And I told her, I kind of laughed and I said, "I'm sure it wasn't me." And and it just we walked about 20 feet down past the set of structures we were at, heading back down the mountain, kind of in a zigzag, kind of going to the northwest. And the smell went away, and it never came back. We never seen anything else. Never even heard anything. That was it.
Okay, do you have an actual research team that goes with you out on these expeditions?
Just me.
Just you?
Yep. I mean, I got some family members that go out with me. We consider them part of the research team, but they don't go out with me all the time. I go out by myself. 90% of the time, I'm way out in the woods by myself, unarmed. I just got a Damascus blade on my hip, and let me tell you what, that don't deter a charging moose. That's happened to me several times. I just get in a cluster of trees and yell at him, and he eventually just gives up and walks the other direction, and I get out of there. But yeah, for the most part, I am the team. I am Western Slope Bigfoot.
How many actual encounters have you had with these creatures there?
Throughout the time period of 30 years.
Well, let's say in the past 5 years, how many encounters have you had with these creatures?
Oh, in the past 8 months, 9 months, I've had about 6 encounters. Let me tell you, I encounter them just about every time I go out, and I try to go out twice a week, and I end up seeing one, whether he be a big one or it's a little, I assume, juvenile. And it's incredible how often I see these creatures, and it really is. And a lot of people can't explain why I run into them so much, but I do. And some say it's maybe they're on this. These creatures are kind of on the spiritual side too. They know when you're there to harm them. They know if you're a bad person. They know if you're a good person, and maybe they can sense my energy as being good, and I tend to run into it quite often. And within the last 5 years, I've ran into many.
Dollar.
I've ran into him many, many times within the past years, and I lost count as far as, being a researcher for 30 years. I have seen some incredible stuff. I've just seen so much incredible stuff.
That was my son there. Excuse me just a second.
You're
Yeah, over the last 5 years here in Georgia, Blake and I have actually had quite a few encounters with these things, and some of them, have just been wood knocks. Some of them have been rocks thrown at us. A couple of bluff charges, and that right there, when you have one of these things that look like they're twice the size of a big football linebacker, maybe three times the size, and one of these things makes a bluff charge and runs at you in the woods, knocking trees over, as you say, pulling them up by the roots, slinging them at you. When something like this happens, it's not for the faint of heart. I'm here to tell you.
no,
It's something that you, as a researcher, you've got to have I don't know, you've got to have a sense about you that is far more uh, than what the normal person has to get out and actually encounter these things. To stand there and something like this going on,
yeah,
uh, I'm not to say that I'm a brave man, but I've encountered these things. I haven't run yet. Well, I take it back. It has been a couple of times, but I have, I guess, kind of what you'd say, chickened out and run. But it's just a couple of experiences that you don't know what they're going to do. You really don't. You don't know if they're there. If they're actually going to stop or if they're going to come on and take you out or what.
exactly, exactly. And I've had a lot of people that wanted to go out and experience them. They said that's on my bucket list. I want to see a Sasquatch. I want to hear one. I want to experience it. And they've come up to me and they've contacted me through email and whatnot. I have a guy coming from I want to say Kentucky. He's from the East Coast. And he's going to come out here to go on an expedition with me. And it takes a special person to investigate and go out and risk your ass and life to research these creatures. You're dealing with something we don't quite understand. We don't know their behaviors. And like you said, well, they could get aggressive, they could charge you, but are they going to stop or are they going to continue and you're done? Or you just never know what's going to happen, let alone the actual wildlife that's out there that's also could be a danger, let alone your environment's a huge danger. And I've had a lot of people that's wanted to go out with me, and I've actually took some people out back in like Pagosa and up in Montana, and we've encountered what they wanted to encounter, but it wasn't the bundle of roses they thought it would be, and they won't step foot back in the woods again. And I tell people, it's like, listen, when you go out and you want to go out with me and we find something like this, you're looking at something that's completely unknown to science, that's completely unknown to most everybody. If you're going to go out and you see something like this, it's going to do, one or two things to you. It's either going to scare you. For one, it's going to scare you. It still scares me. I've been doing this 30 years. I've seen tons of them. It scares the hell out of me a lot of the times. It's gonna either make you obsessed and make you want to learn more, or it's gonna get you pink slipped because you're gonna lose your mind. You're gonna be so scared. You're gonna sit in a corner and you're gonna be so frightened because you just can't believe what just happened. And I tell a lot of people, it's not a bundle of roses going out there. It's extremely dangerous. But we do this because it's our passion, and you've got to be a special kind of person to go out there deep in the woods to find these creatures and encounter them and try to interact with them, and not, just run away in complete fear. You got to have some of steel ones. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm telling you, man. Like I said, as researchers, it's just I've had people tell me that I'm crazy for actually believing in these things, and then I've had people tell me that I'm crazy for actually trying to interact with them. Well, I may be crazy. I never have told anybody, that I am sane, but as you say, it's a passion. It's something that I had an encounter with one back in 1981. I saw my first one, and of course, back at that time, I was a young man. Back in the late '60s, I had actually saw the film of the Patterson Gimlin film of Patty. I knew that much about them, but as far as actually knowing anything about the creatures, I didn't. Then I had that first encounter in '81. We were on a rafting trip, and this thing was. We came down across the waterfall and down the creek, turned to the right, and this thing was standing where another small creek came into the larger creek that we were on, and there was a big sandbar that ran out kind of in a triangle shape out into the edge of the big creek, and this thing was over on the edge of this sandbar to our left, and it was bent over. And when I first saw it, I thought it, it was like I thought it was a bear when I first saw it. I was about 40 to 60 yards from this thing in a raft. We were running along pretty good in the raft, and then I thought, no, wait a minute, this thing is crouched over like a man crouched over, not like a bear would be. And I reckon when it winded us or saw us, whatever, it stood straight up. But what I really noticed about it the most was when it's what I thought should have been bear paws, but when its hands came up out of the water, it was probably hands about twice my size. They were hair covered on the back, all the way down to the middle finger, to the knuckle in the middle of the finger. And then the rest of the finger looked to be like a grayish black color, and then with long fingernails. Just much I did see. But this thing, this whole deal, interacted maybe 10, 15 seconds or so, and this thing turned, and the wood line was maybe, I'm going to say 40, 50 feet behind it, and this thing in just a couple of bounds was into the woods and completely vanished. And,
That's incredible.
like I say, at that time I had never encountered anything. I've hunted these mountains of North Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, and around out west, since I was 7 years old. And I had never, at that time, I had never encountered anything like that. No scream, no yell, no vocalization, nothing other than just a very face-to-face sighting of this thing. But it burnt something into my being that I have to get out and try to prove that not prove it to anyone else, but to prove it to myself that these creatures are actually out there and they actually exist in our wilderness.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's awesome.
Now, the area you're from out there, do you do a lot of hunting out there yourself?
I am a hunter. Um, Granted, I haven't been hunting in about 8 years. I'm going to try to go this next season. Try to take harvest a mule deer. Put some food on the table, and like I said, it's been about 8 years since I went hunting. But there's no short of a deer out here or else, not by far.
I know I had a friend up at Chatsworth years ago that this was back in the '80s. He was going out there on paid hunts. I think what they call Mud Mountain out in that area. He'd take 6, 8 guys with him out there. They were hiring guide services to take them out, and he took this one particular guy with him. And I don't know if you know much about the 30-30 rifle, but this guy had actually taken a 30-30 rifle out there to elk hunt with him. And the second, third day they were out there, he actually shot a huge buck elk, and they said this thing had went down across the river below where he shot it at, went right straight up the side of a mountain, knocking trees down the back side of the mountain, and out into this big thicket. And the guide that they had hired it had actually taken him all day to actually find this elk. And the point being, Gary was telling me about it, laughing, and he said the old guide came back after they had found and gutted the elk and brought it out. He came back up there where they were at, and Gary says he walks up and punched him right in the mouth, knocked him down flat of his butt, and told him, said, if you ever bring another guy out here with you, with a damn pop gun to hunt a elk with. I'm going to kill you.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've in the past I've seen a lot of Sasquatch out hunting when my intention was not to find Sasquatch, and yeah, it was it was very interesting nonetheless.
So on your hunting trips, you have actually encountered Sasquatch?
Yeah, yes, uh, especially when I was younger with my dad.
No. Okay. I had to stand up here a minute. I'm getting a cramp in my leg.
You're fine.
I'm getting to be one of those old men you were talking about.
Hey, I'm getting there.
uh, well, I thank God, I'll turn 63 in March, and hey, I'm still out there at least once or twice a week
Yeah,
chasing out of these things. So,
that's incredible, man. Keep up the good work. I give all researchers that go out and do this props. I give them a huge amount of a huge applaud to every one of them going out and trying their best to shed light to science and educate people.
well, that's the whole name of the game on doing this. That's exactly the reason I do it. I know these creatures are out there, and I don't know about your area out there, but here in Georgia, there's construction going on every day. Parcels of land going down under the bulldozers that these creatures actually use as their home turf. And that's one thing that I do it for is to actually educate people about them and to educate them, as far as the land that they actually need to survive.
Yeah,
You know, as we encroach farther and farther into their territories, that's the reason we're getting more sightings and more encounters of these things. And that's one thing that I try to educate people on.
yeah, yeah,
We have all in all our mountains around here now. We have housing projects everywhere. I came down Fort Mountain the other day above Chatsworth up here about 25, 30 miles from where I live, and I'd noticed it'd been maybe a couple of years since I've been through there, and I noticed that area they put in like 15 or 20 new housing projects. Man, right on the side of bluffs, there's houses that are built on the side of 1,000-foot bluffs up there on this thing.
yeah,
And it's amazing that of all the areas and the encroachment that we're doing on these creatures' turf, and then they wonder why we're having more encounters each day from them.
yeah. I want to say too that when I was younger, I was guilty of of logging. I think I was about 20 years old. I used to be a sawyer in Montana, and I encountered a couple of Bigfoot back then. And um, let's just say I can't remember the company I worked for. Uh, let's just say after two sightings while I was out there falling trees, they were just in the bushes watching me. Um, well, one day we had come to work. We were doing our thing, and uh, we're falling trees, and they would everybody was just kind of doing their thing as far as work, and then lunchtime came. So okay, we left down the mountain. We went into town. We were gonna go eat at a restaurant. Okay, we had like bulldozers. We had some type of crane equipment. We had a couple of excavators up there. We had all this equipment, right? And this is pretty incredible. And this was the last day on the job. It opened my eyes, and they pretty much showed me they really didn't appreciate it. And I think that's their message. But anyway, we came back from lunch, and when we came back to our job site, every piece of equipment was laying on its back. The guy running the show, the boss, everybody was their jaws were hanging open. The boss gets on the phone with the head guys, and told them, well, we got a problem, and We don't know how to explain it, but all the equipment's on its back. It's laying on its back or it's laying on its side. And well, I put two and two together, seeing what I've seen out there over a 2 months period. That they came in and they dumped all that equipment. How else would a bulldozer get laid on its side? You know, how would an excavator get laid on its side? It's like the Incredible Hulk went over there and just slammed all this equipment and just wrecked everything. And we
Right,
could
and that's something that people don't realize, man. That's what I was going back to earlier in the broadcast was the sheer strength these creatures possess.
Oh my God, yes.
You know,
Oh, they're incredible.
uh, if you're out there, you know, I've had people tell me, "Oh man, I've heard wood knocks in the woods. I've heard limb breaks. I've heard this. I've heard that. I've thrown rocks at them." Got one guy from Tennessee that goes up to a camping area up there in Tennessee, national forest area, and he said that he was telling me that he'd been going up there for a few weeks, and he said every time that he went up there, he'd had something throw rocks at his tent that night along about 10, 11 o'clock every night while he was there. So this thing would throw rocks in against the tent, throw them at his fire or whatever. He said so he got the bright idea. He went to Walmart and he bought him a basket of these tennis balls. And he said he went back up there the following Friday night, walked in, had to walk in about a half mile from where the parking area is at. So he walked in, set up camp and all as usual, said about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, sure enough, said there's 2, 3 pretty good sized rocks chunked into the camp. He said, well, I got out there and I started throwing these tennis balls. He said, I throw them into the woods as hard as I could throw them. He said, well, I got the listing and you could actually hear these things running through the woods like they were chasing these tennis balls. Well, he said he got through doing this. He went on to bed that night, had nothing else happen. He said he got up the next morning, walked back down to his car, and he said, I swear to God, he said, every tennis ball that I threw was lined up across the hood of my car.
Yeah. Yeah, that's incredible. That's what they do.
So I
Yeah,
told him, I said, now, man, I said, look, I said, you got to realize that it takes a smart creature to be able to do that. To actually run those tennis balls down in the dark with no light. You know, when we go out there in the dark, we have to have our lights, whatever to see by. These things were able to run those tennis balls down and then had the knowledge to go down and seek out his car out of what was it of the different cars in the parking lot and then place these things across the hood of his car. I said,
yeah,
well, man, you're not dealing, you know, and he'd always considered, you know, even if they existed, they were some kind of dumb ape. Well, man, you know, it takes something with knowledge to be able to actually do what this thing done.
exactly. And that they do things like that, and they will also gift you back. If would you go out gifting and you come back? Oh, there'll be a mushroom. There'll be a quartz rock. There'll be feathers, mostly hawk. Uh, they'll leave it in the gifting area where you decide that you're going to place, apples, maybe some oranges, maybe some candy bars. Give them some goodies, just to gain their trust and show you, so you could show them that you're peaceful. You don't mean any harm. And they'll actually, when you come back the next day, a couple of days later, well, everything will be gone, and you'll have some stuff there for you.
Got a guy in Tennessee right now. That's with the Tennessee Bigfoot Patrol. I think you know some of the guys that's with that. Uh, they he's actually doing a gifting area at his house up there, and he told me that the first night he gifted, uh, he had put some apples and stuff out. Went back up there the next day, day after, whatever, and he found, you know, the apples were gone, but he found a jawbone.
Yeah,
And he had these things suspended in these 3-tier metal baskets up about, he said, about 7, 8 foot off the ground. Is what he had these apples and stuff in. Well, the apples and stuff were gone, and this animal jawbone was laying in this metal basket. So he
that's
said he opened it again, and that's the same thing he got again. was another jawbone. So, you tell me these things, they actually, and then one lady told me of a deal where she was fishing one night on the Conasauga River, had caught some trout, and had left them on a stringer, going to clean them the next morning. Well, she said she got up and went down there the next morning. Her trout was gone, and there was a piece of wood vine, she said, that was positioned into fashioned into like a kind of like a bow tie. She said, laying there on the rocks where her fish was at. She said she really didn't think nothing about it. She thought maybe snakes or something, turtles or whatever, might have gotten her fish. She couldn't really figure out what that deal meant with the bow tie, or with the vines being tied up like a bow tie. And she said so. She waited, a couple of weeks and went back up there, and she had baked the chicken, and she took the remains of the chicken that they'd had for supper, and she took it down there and placed it on the rock. Well, the next morning she got up and went down there. The chicken was gone, and 2 fresh trout were laying on the rock.
That's amazing. That's incredible. It goes to show you that's they have a very, 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 they're very intelligent, and that's their way of saying, oh, thank you. Here's something in return. That they leave a variety of things like that. It's happened to me.
Well, Zeus, we're coming down on the hour mark here. I'm
Okay.
going to sign off. I really appreciate it, man. You coming on such short notice. If you ever want to come back on the show, all you got to do is get a hold of me. I think you've got my email now. Just shoot me an email. We'll have you back on anytime. If you find anything else out, if you want to share any information with the viewers or whatever, just hit me back, dude. Or if you just want to come on and talk Sasquatch, I would be glad to have you back on anytime.
Yeah, well, it was an honor being on here. I have so much to talk about. Some things I have to talk about. I don't know if a lot of people are really actually ready to hear a lot of things that I have to say. But that could be in future shows. So,
Hey, dude, I tell you what, I've got the 27th open, which would be on a Wednesday. If you'd be willing to come back on, and we can do some more talking, and you can share some more of your info.
yeah, I think that might work out.
All right, I'll go ahead and put you down for that, Zeus. I appreciate it, man. I'm gonna go ahead and sign off. I got my son waiting out here to talk to me. But dude, again, it was a pleasure having you on. Again, I apologize for such short notice. But I'll go ahead and put you down for the 27th, and we'll see what you goes. Okay.
Okay. Well, it was an honor being on here and speaking to you. It's been good.
All right, man. Be safe out there.
Yeah, you too, man.
All right. Thank you, and see you later.
Thank you. We'll see you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of another broadcast. I would just like to remind everyone to stay safe out in the woods when you're out there. If you have an encounter with these creatures, and also when you're out and about in today's times, be very safe. Wear your mask. I know people are getting tired of hearing this, but look, I was too until we had tragedy hit our family a week ago. My brother-in-law, Ricky Hughes from Murray County, was diagnosed and passed away on January the 1st at 2 a.m. in Gordon Hospital due to complications with COVID. So, tragedy has struck our family with this disease. So please, folks, if you're out and about, wear those masks and keep yourself safe. This has been another broadcast of Northwest Georgia Cryptics. I'm saying good night to everyone, and remember, please hit that like and subscribe button, bell notification, and let YouTube know that you like our content. Thank everyone, and good night.